Hi, good afternoon, all. I was trying to give persons, a few extra minutes to join. Miss Hedburn, are you in? Because I still see you in the waiting room. Or are you trying to?
Hi, yeah, I'm trying to get on my computer. My internet was freaking out earlier. Sorry about that. So
Okay,
I'm
so
on my phone right now, but I'm trying to connect with my computer.
okay, so okay,
Okay.
okay, that's better. Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so welcome to anti-money laundering and compliance. Um, my name is Mrs. Bullard. I've been with BIFs for the past 6 years. This course is three parts. This is just the beginning, introduction to anti-money laundering and compliance systems. This course is for 5 weeks. You should have received the book from the office. Does everybody have their book?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So again, this course is discussion based, and so each person would the expectation is that each week we would read the chapters and then we come ready to discuss. Okay. Sometimes I will assign parts of the chapter for persons to go out and do research. So it's discussion based and it requires research. Okay. And so back to my introduction, and I guess each person can introduce themselves. And so we'll get to know a little bit about each other's background. A big part of the course is also networking. Okay. And so what we hope to achieve is, go out and, meet the movers and shakers of the corporate world. Because most of the time, to get to the next level, you have to know somebody. So we want to be sure that we're not only educated and knowledgeable, but we know the right people who can assist us to get to the next position in our careers. Okay, so I've been with the institute for past 6 years. This course is three different levels. This is introduction, which is the for the next 5 weeks. After you would have completed introduction and you feel that compliance is the way to go for you, then the next level is intermediate, which is 10 weeks. And after that, it's international compliance, it's money laundering for 9 months, and then governance, risk, and compliance for another 9 months. So the last phase of this course is 18 months. So you can decide that maybe compliance is not for me, and I want to stop right here at introduction. And normally this introduction will just give you an overview of what anti-money laundering and compliance is. If it's very comprehensive, it requires lots of reading, and it also requires you to do a lot of research. So if you can't tie yourself down and read, then perhaps this may not be the class for you. You may need to stop after introduction. But if you can do the reading and you can handle how comprehensive it is, then you can go on to the next section, which is intermediate, which is 10 weeks. After intermediate, if you still feel like I definitely want to make this a career, or, this is a good designation to have no matter which department I work in, then of course you'll go on to ICA, which is 9 months of AML, 9 months of governance, risk, and compliance. For the ICA, what you do is you write 3,500 words in essays. So your three essays at 3,500 for AML and three essays at 3,500 for governance, risk, and compliance. Okay. And so in the introduction, just to get you used to that, what we do is we give you one or two essays to complete just for practice to ensure that you're grasping, what we're talking about each week, and you know how to answer the questions and put it in essay form. Okay. So is that clear so far? Genovia?
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Oh,
clear.
okay. It's clear. Okay, good. So again, compliance and AML, very comprehensive, requires lots of reading, requires some research. Um, if you're familiar with lawyers, a lot of the laws are written not in layman's terms. So sometimes we have to go and get a lawyer to interpret for us. So compliance is like one step below law, where some of the laws, each regulator has created a guideline. And when I say regulated, it depends on where you are in the financial services industry. So if you work in the insurance sector, then there's the insurance commission. If you work in a bank, then there's the Central Bank of the Bahamas. The Securities Commission, then there's the Securities Commission of the Bahamas. Sorry, in securities firms. And then if you work in gaming houses, then it's the gaming board. So they are the regulators. So what the regulators have done is created guidelines, and I would have attached the central bank guidelines in the email that I sent out to you. And we will also go through that this afternoon. So just before we start, I was just trying to give you an overview and give others the opportunity to join. I see we have more persons in now. So I just want each one of us to introduce ourselves and say what we hope to get from this class, or why we took this class. So for instance, my name is Mrs. Bullard. I've been in the financial services sector for the last 25 years. I talk about Royal Bank a lot. That's where I spent the bulk of my career. I was with Royal Bank for the past 16 years. My background is operations, compliance, and governance. And so, along with that, I've been with the Institute for the past 6 years as well, teaching all the levels of anti-money laundering and compliance. Okay, so I want we'll start with Jamal, and I want each of us just to introduce ourselves, because at the end of this course, hopefully we'll have a WhatsApp group. We will network with each other. We will share ideas. And I don't know if you had an opportunity to peruse the instruction sheet that I sent out, but you also do get an extra 5% if you attend one of the civic organizations. So let's just introduce ourselves so we would know who we are networking with. Okay, Jamal, go ahead.
Okay, good evening all. I have 5 years banking experience with Scotiabank. Mostly just front end with teller end, so that's mostly on cash. I have about 6 years experience in law enforcement from coming from the Department of Corrections, and 3 years in the insurance industry. Speaking to some of my peers and colleagues, they would always recommend either law or compliance based on my personality and experience. When you look at law is a bit more complex and more costly. So I said, let me give compliance a try and see what would I gather from getting the information out of the course. I'm hoping to see if this course is for me, to be honest with you, rather than going through it and not loving it or falling in love with it. Because most people get qualifications and they get into a career, and when they achieve this goal, they don't love it and they don't see it something that they're passionate about. So I'm eager to learn more about it and to see if this is a good fit for me.
Okay, excellent, Jamal, and you made the right choice. Definitely, intro will give you that overview to find out, whether it's for you or not, and if you become passionate about it. Actually, surprisingly, I'm not passionate about it, but it helps pay the bills. So, compliance is one of the top tier positions within the bank. Compliance, then trust, then capital markets. And so, if you want to make good money, it's a good position, to hold. And so, it depends on what motivates you. So I tie myself down. It may sound remedial, but a lot of persons have a problem reading. And so I'm doing research. And not only after we read and do that research, another thing, and I always tell persons, we learn this in primary school, comprehension. We read a whole essay, but we don't understand what it's saying. And sometimes we walk away with not the true meaning. So comprehension is very important. So it's a regulated function. That means your regulator, the office can put out an ad in the paper. They can say, okay, Miss Bullet, I choose you, or Mr. Cash, I choose you. But the regulator has to approve the MLRO. So normally the senior person in the compliance department will become the MLRO, and that's a regulated function. Okay? Okay, thank you so much for that, Cash. Burrows, you want to share?
Good afternoon. Hi. Sorry if you hear any noise, that's my daughter in the background.
Okay, that's fine. We understand working from home and this
Yes.
virtual. So, yeah, lady.
I've been in the financial industry for about 6 years. Currently, I'm studying at the University of the Bahamas to get my bachelor's degree in management. So I just, want to build up my portfolio, and I know we do a lot of KYC at my job, so I'm pretty familiar with compliance. So I just wanted to get a better understanding of it and see if that's something that I would be interested in. So that's why I joined the course.
Okay, and again, excellent choice. By the end of this 5 weeks, you will definitely know if this is for me, and you will definitely learn. Like I said, this is beneficial to the entire organization, as by law, one of our statutory requirements is that we have AML and compliance training annually. So this is why it's beneficial to everybody, because everybody has to have that annual training. Okay, very good. Headburn.
Hi, good evening. My name is Genovia Hepburn. I've been working for a law firm for about 2 years, and we do a lot of, KYC, obviously, and compliance and corporate work as well. So I'm taking this course to see if in the future I would want to become a compliance officer, and even more so to get a better understanding of the work that I am doing already. So I've had a little bit of hands-on experience, thankfully. So this is just to further my interest in this particular field.
Okay, great, very good. And Sawyer? Sharenda Sawyer?
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. I'm Sharanda Sawyer. I work for the Office of the Attorney General, almost 10 years. I joined this class to equip myself and make myself knowledgeable in the field, and to see if I would like it in order for me to be transferred to our new department, which is compliance.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Sharonda, and again, like you say, if you fall in love with it and you're passionate, be behind you 100%. We hope you get that transfer 100%. So excellent. Okay, Omega.
Hi, my name is Omega Murphy. I was working in a financial institution. So I take the class to be more knowledgeable with the information and to build my portfolio.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, go ahead, Omega.
No, I was saying that's it.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Nantonia?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So I joined the class to be certified in the area as well as to learn more about it.
Okay, and so you are there already. You sure that this is your passion and this is the career route that you choose?
Well, I am in the banking industry. However, I'm not working in this department as yet.
Okay. Okay, good. So great. So it seems like all of us are in the same space, 5 to 10 years within the financial services sector. So some of us would have had that AML training annually, and so we should be at least familiar with some of the terms and some of the terminology. Now, Ms. Bullitt talks a lot, and sometimes I speak very fast, and so until we get used to each other, which will probably be at the 5th week, right? You can slow me down or just there's a button on this where you can just raise your hand and just say, Ms. Bullitt, stop, or give me an explanation. And so until we get a feel for what works best with the class, just interject, feel free to interject and let me know. And again, this is discussion based. So Ms. Bullitt isn't gonna come every week and talk you until you fall asleep. You'll have to keep me awake as well. So make sure you'll come with provocative information each week, and we have a discussion and we learn a lot. Okay. So with that said, do you all have your book, and did you have the opportunity to peruse your book as yet?
Yes, I have my book.
Okay, so if you were to look through, just skim through the book, it's just 8 chapters. And so what we'll do each week is we'll cover 2 chapters. And again, this is your first test. If you cannot read these chapters, which are 2 or 3 pages, perhaps 5 at most, then this class isn't for you. Because as you go on to intermediate, you will find that the pages are about 5 to 8 pages per chapter. And then when you go on to ICA, there's like 50 to 70 pages per chapter. So that's how it increases. So if you struggle just to read this book, then we know that we're gonna stop right after we complete this. But we're here and we are gonna be committed to this. And again, it may seem, like I say, very comprehensive, but it's definitely achievable, okay? And no matter what position you are in the financial services sector, this looks good on your resume, okay? This is definitely a keeper. And if you do decide to go to the compliance department, this is definitely a requirement, okay? So don't feel like, oh, I don't want to be overwhelmed by this. Just get through this. You're already here. You already made the commitment, and you will find it beneficial in the end. Okay, so that's the book. And again, like I said, it's 8 chapters. At the back of the book, there are some colored paper because we would have pulled some information from the internet just to give you some insight and some oversight. And so in your spare time, you can look at page 60 and you can see that there's an appendix there with some questions. And these questions would be possible, questions on the final exam. And so you can spend some time looking through the appendix. And then there are some other cases, because a lot of times when you write essays, you have to give examples. And so these are some of the cases, and there are loads of cases all over the internet. But these would have been some that we would have pulled, again, like I said, just to give you some indications of what red flags are and where you get source information from. And then case 1, it says, so you decided to become a compliance officer. We're going to read that today. And then there's case 2, again, more anti-money laundering questions. And in your spare time, again, you can practice those because you're probably going to see 1 or 2 of those questions again on the internet and so on. And so throughout the book, again, we separated by the colored paper, case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. And 1 or 2 of them we're going to do in class, but for the most part, it's for you to spend some time at home. And when you, if you, have any questions, shoot me an email, or when you come to class, you can just ask, Miss Bullard, I was stuck and I need some help with A, B, or C, and that'll be fine. Okay, so we clear about the book and how it's set up. Are there any questions? No? Clear as mud? Okay. That's fine if you have to ask more than once. No problem at all. Okay, so let's just look at what I would have sent out to you in the email, and I'm going to share my screen. And let's just see. Okay, before I share my screen, I need to pull it up. Everybody would have received an email, and it had 3 attachments in the email.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. You don't have to talk to me, Miss Bullock, you fall asleep. If you all just be there quiet. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Miss Paulette.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. I see you have it up. I gonna ask you something about the sheet with the same paper here, but I'll wait. I see you have it up already.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is our instruction sheet for the next 5 weeks. And so as we look at the chapters, or the course assessment, there's 10% for class participation, 20% for quiz and homework, and 70% for your final grade. Now, in the homework instructions, it says you may complete all questions for homework. However, you are only to submit 2 of the essays. Okay, each essay should be typed in standard essay form. And again, sometimes persons get offended when I say this, but if you haven't taken English 119, the Institute offers English 119, and it's very helpful in terms of writing essays or formatting or what needs to be done. So normally I always ask Miss D and I say, please let that be a prerequisite, because in 1 or 2 classes back, we had persons who weren't sure how to reference and what needed to be done. And we spent a lot of time teaching them English rather than adding money laundering. So please, if you need some help with, if perhaps you need a refresher, or you may have graduated 100 years ago like Miss Bullet. And so don't feel bad about it, ask for help, but ensure that, it's 1,000 to 1,200 words. You have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. I've also attached the ICA book, because if you're going to go all the way, we might as well practice now. So on page 17 and 19 of the ICA handbook, it tells you the type of referencing that they use, because there are many types out there. And so make sure you read pages 17 and 19 only. The book has about 50 pages, but only those 2 pages you need to read. And that teaches you how to reference. I don't normally take points off for referencing. However, as you go up and you go to ICA, persons have lost like 30 and 40% for improper referencing. So I decided to include it so you can practice from now to ensure that you're quoting your sources properly and the way they want it. Okay? So copy and paste. There are loads and loads and loads of articles online that sometimes are very similar or the exact question that is for homework. And persons go online and they do their research and they say, oh, let me just copy and paste this. Miss Bullet done read all of them. They in my head. And persons, I done mark so many pieces of homework. I've seen them all over, but I can tell right away if it's copy and paste. We also, ICA has a system where they upload your paper and they tell you 10% was taken from another student's paper, 20% came from this, 10%, some persons copy a whole big body of law. No, we know what the law says. So you just need to reference the law. You don't need to copy and paste the whole entire law. Okay? And so please, when you do your research and you find a paper that's similar, read it and translate it into your own words. Okay? That's the only way you prove that you understand, and that's what we test. We don't test memory, we test understanding.
Great.
Omega? Omega?
Yes?
Oh, can you mute your mic? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so please avoid the copy and paste. So you could get a reasonable grade. Now, normally, persons get like 100% on their paper, and that's the expectation that you get 100%. Because once I check it and I see that you have the relevant information with no fluff or little fluff, then you get full points. So it's very, very easy. And then I also have, if you don't send it within 2 days after the due date, then I don't accept it. You just go to the next one. So there are 4 papers. Please do not wait until week 4 and say, Miss Bullet, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck on my paper. Okay? A lot of persons, the second or the third essay is fine, because after the first or second class, we'll be halfway there. So by then you should know the expectation based on our discussion. Some people go right ahead and do the first question. It really, really depends on them. But don't wait. If you're stuck, don't wait until week 4 and on July 7 telling me, Miss Bullet, I need some help. No, please do it beforehand and ask beforehand. Okay, so that's the requirement for homework. 2 essays out of, and you only have 4 choices and you have 4 days. Okay, and that's how you get your 20%. Is that clear? Is there any questions on the essays?
Each one of the essays is 20%, or the 2 adds up to the 20%?
Right, the 2 will add up to the 20%. So you'll have an average of the 2 to take you to the 20%.
Okay.
And again, in my last class, some persons didn't even do their homework, and now they're finding out that they did not pass the class. So overall passing grade for the class is 70%. So that 20% really, really helps you. You can possibly go into the exam with 30%. But if you do not do your homework, you have to get almost 85 to 90% on the final exam to pass the class. Okay, so take advantage of the homeworks and the participation. So again, I said earlier, this is a discussion-based class. Ms. Bullet, I talk a lot, but I can sit here and talk for the 3 hours. Um, I encourage everybody to read the newspaper every day as the compliance professionals. Normally in the morning, you'll have the CEO and other members of management come down and ask what's happening in the news or what is the latest in regards to AML or in the financial services sector. And so, you can't say, well, I don't know. I didn't have time to read the newspaper. So the expectation for compliance professionals is they keep abreast of the news. And I worked in offshore for many years, so I dealt with the Swiss markets and the European markets. So I had to keep um, abreast of the French news and the Swiss news and a lot of the other German news. And what I did is I just added them to my Facebook feed, and that made it easy. And so I would just read the headlines, and that was very beneficial to me because one day there was a name that came across the feed, this person being arrested for embezzlement. And I said, that name looks familiar. And this person was out of Switzerland. And so I went to our system, I put in the name, and lo and behold, I was able to block that account because that person was going to jail. Okay, so that's the benefits of the news. And then you should be abreast of what's going on in the countries where you do business. But at minimum, you should read the Bahamas news and know what's going on within the country you live in. Okay, not only read the business section, not the comics now, but subscribe to the Bahamas Financial Services Board, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, the Bahamas Association of Compliance Officers, which is BACO, which you can join as a student right now. There's an application form and you send your CV, and normally your institution pays for memberships. So you submit it to your head office and I see if they would agree to pay for your membership. And definitely if you're gonna go all the way, you definitely need to join BACO. Okay, and if you work for a securities firm, then you subscribe to the Securities Commission and the Financial Action Task Force and any other applicable website. And once you sign up, they send you newsletters, and that's the way you keep abreast of, what's going on in the economy or in the world in regards to anti-money laundering and compliance. And again, we all work in the corporate world, and so these are the water cooler conversations that we have. This is what we talk about. Okay, is it? Or I don't know if everybody having a problem. Can you all hear me clearly, or is it just Miss Sawyer having an audio problem?
I can hear you
clearly. Okay, yeah. So Sawyer, perhaps you need to sign out and sign back in and see what happens. But this is being recorded, and so if you have any issues, then you can also always go back and listen to the recording. And again, Miguel would be able to assist you in how to access the recordings. Okay, yeah, so subscribe, and you just visit these websites and you click subscribe and you put in your email address and you will get all of the relevant information each week, that's happening in the economy. Okay, and so once you read the newspaper and you come to class and you share with us, because we don't have time to read every single article, right? So you come to class and you share with us what's happening in the news. This is how you get your 5%. And then if you attend Toastmasters, Rotary, Kiwanis, and they have it in person now or via Zoom, and you share that with the class, that's how you get your other 5%. And that's for the purpose of networking. Again, all of the movers and the shakers and the people who matter, all of the executives, this is where they hang out. They don't hang out to the fish fry or to the dock, right? And they don't just take a picture of what they eating and what they wearing. These are the people who are out there. So this are the people that we want to get to know. We want to go out, introduce ourselves and network and get our names out there. Because I always say, it's 10 of us in this class, all of us are gonna leave with the same qualification. Who will Miss Bullet hire? Tell me, who will you hire? The person you're most familiar with, right?
That's correct.
Correct. So this is the importance of networking. And as we go through and we read in the chapters, then you will see how long you could survive if you network properly. Okay, so 5% when you come and share the newspaper article, 5% when you attend one of those civic organizations. And again, please don't just go sign in on Zoom and don't introduce yourself and don't say anything. You have to introduce yourself. You have to tell us what the topic of the day is. If you go to Toastmasters, they normally have a word of the day, and you come back and share all of that with us and share your experience and tell us if it was beneficial. Okay, it's to network, not just to go and say, I did it and I need my 5%. Okay, everybody understand how we get the 10% for attendance and participation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Going back to the 20% for the homework, I see there are due dates on these, right? So if there's only 2 that submitted out of the 4, that means you look at the best 2 that you did out of the 4 and submit it, or you look at, let me understand, because I see 4 here, and it's saying just 2 should be submitted for a grade.
Yes.
That each one of them have a due date.
Yes.
So let's say I wait until, let's say I do number 1, I don't like number 1. I do number 2, send it to you. Number 3, I don't like, but number 4, I send to you. So how will I know which one I should send is the question I'm trying to ask.
No, which only submit to whichever one you want to submit. Whichever one you feel that you could get the highest grade in, that's the one that you send to me. Okay? More than likely, these questions will repeat on the final exam or something similar to this question. So what you do is you keep your homework until you get to the final exam, and then you will see, you know, that you've already done your research, and that's where it becomes beneficial to you. Okay, so you decide what, you know, sometimes you say, I want to do the June 30th one, but that's the end of the month and I was busy. And so I missed that date. So then you pick the July 7th. It's really up to you.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, so just submit 2, and that's how you get your grade. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so the final exam itself is 70% of your grade. Okay, and the final exam should be on Thursday, July the 15th. And the exam structure is 15 multiple choice questions and 7 essays. So again, on the exam, just 1-page essays, not the 1,000 words that you did for homework, but just 1 pages or no more than 200-300 words, a page and a half. And each of those essays are gonna be worth 10 points. Okay, any questions about the instructions and what needs to be done?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, and each one is due on the Wednesday before class. Okay, at 11:59. At 12 o'clock, you get 10% off. Okay, so make sure you catch the times and the dates. Okay, and then you will get your results 1 week after. Okay, 1 second, I'm just, okay. Okay, so Sawyer, are you there? Is it better now? Sharonda? Yes? Okay, great. Okay. Okay, so that's the instruction page, and I sent the ICA assessment. Remember, only pages 17 and 19 you need to look at for referencing. Okay, and this is the central bank guidelines. And no disrespect, but if you work in a bank, this is your Bible. Okay, and so this is the guidelines that we work with. So as we get to chapter 3, we will see the anti-money laundering or regulatory framework. And so what happens is we have international standards. The FATF, they put out 40 recommendations. Each country adapts those recommendations into law, and then each regulator puts it in layman's terms, and they create a guideline for each of their licensees to follow. So this is a central bank guideline for banks. The Insurance Commission has a guideline for insurance companies. The Securities has one for the securities companies. The Compliance Commission has one for real estate accountants and lawyers that offer corporate services. And who else is there? And then the Gaming Board has one for gaming houses. So depending on which industry you fall under, and I think for the most part, you all said all of you are in banks, right? Anybody not in a bank?
I'm not in a bank.
No, not in a bank? Okay. No. So but you know who your regulator is?
Securities Commission and Compliance Commission.
Oh, okay.
We do corporate services as well as
okay. So what is important is that you know what your regulator guideline says, because from this guideline, your company should have basically copied and pasted whatever services they offer. And so, of course, on the background in your anti-money laundering directive in your institution, it should say background, and then internal controls, and then risk rating, and then verifications. And your internal policy should mimic what your regulator says. And then on top of what your regulator says, any internal policy, like I worked at the Royal Bank of Canada, so Royal Bank was a Canadian company. Canadians are way more conservative than Swiss companies, so their policies would have been more strict than the actual regulator, because Royal Bank, is concerned with reputational risk, and so they never want to be in problems with the regulator. So if the regulator asks for one piece of ID, you will find that the Canadian companies ask for two pieces, right? If you ask a Swiss company in their AML directive, they don't know why you have to ask for any ID, okay? So they're not as conservative and strict as the Canadian companies, okay? So it just depends on what type of institution that you work in, and how they operate and how they do business. But your anti-money laundering policy should mimic what your regulator says. And sometimes there are gaps. And so, at one point I had to compare our policy to what the regulator said and identified anything that was missing to ensure that our staff were being given the correct information. Okay. So you can tweak it a little bit. You can be more conservative than the regulator, but you shouldn't be less conservative. Okay. And after the guideline, then there's something called best practice. That's not in writing. And again, in the Canadian companies, you find people follow best practices. The culture is we will follow best practice. In Swiss companies, they say, oh, best practice is just you trying to make it difficult to do business. It makes no sense. We don't have to do that. So again, two different cultures depending on where you work. Okay, so get familiar with your regulator and definitely get familiar with your anti-money laundering policy. Okay, you said by the time you get the ICA, you should know it by heart. Okay, and this is where good referral point. We'll always refer back to this. A common problem with guidelines and even policies, and I always say this, I've had persons write a whole entire paper on an outdated policy. So the first thing, when you get a policy, you look at the revision date and you ensure that it's the most current one. So we can see that this was issued in 2009. However, it was revised in 2018. So we would not want to be reading from the 2009 copy because all of the laws have changed since then, okay? Even when we get to the 40 recommendations from the FATF, it's very important to look at the date. Net date is normally on the front page, and it says June 2019 or 2020. Again, they originally started in 2000, and since then they've updated a few times. And so I had somebody write a 3,500 word paper on the 2000 law, because normally when you Google, that's the first thing that comes up. So that's the first thing. Make sure that you check the date. And again, this guideline, central bank, 91 pages. We don't have time to read the 91 pages, so you always go to the table of contents and you say, Miss Bullet say natural persons, for that under identification, page 25, we go straight there, not, to decrease the amount of, time spent and what we have to read. Okay, so again, that's just an overview of the attachments that I sent in the emails. Any questions? Is that clear? Are we keeping up? I need to slow down, or where are we at? Are we fine with all this information?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Like I said, it's a lot of information. It's very comprehensive, and sometimes you can just sit there and you may fall asleep, but we need to retain most of it. We are human beings, we will make mistakes, but we need to retain most of it. Okay. So just an overview about compliance. we'd say that the finance department, like Royal Bank in the Bahamas, was open from 1908. So it's more than 100 years. Scotiabank is more than 60 years, I think, or 60 years. And from Scotiabank and Royal Bank started, they had a finance department. It perhaps wasn't called that 100 years ago, but they had finance, they had operations, um, and credit, perhaps, but compliance is fairly new. So whilst those other areas may be 100 years old, compliance is only, what years is now? 21 or 22, yeah, 22 years. Compliance was born. And compliance was born out of the Bahamas becoming blacklisted in 2000, okay? So in 2000, compliance, the international bodies that blacklist the world, they run the World Bank, the IMF and the FATF, they created these anti-money laundering laws and they call them recommendations. But again, if companies did not put them, sorry, countries did not put them into law, they blacklisted them. And when you get blacklisted, you know, it causes your credit rating to rise. Persons don't want to do business with high risk countries, and it'll basically cost you more money. So it's very important that the country is not seen as a blacklisted country. And so from 2000, when we were blacklisted, even though they call it recommendations, the government of the Bahamas put in laws to mimic some of these 40 recommendations. However, you know, regulation is very expensive. And not only do you need regulations, you need a trained professional, you know, with a number of years of experience. And so you're looking at about $50,000 to $80,000 in salary. Plus you need systems, you need a whole department. It can't be a one-man band if you have like 800 clients. If you have 100 clients, then perhaps a one-man person with an assistant. But here it is, in 2000, they created this function that was like, would cost each institution $100,000 just to implement. And so a lot of companies said, well, I cannot afford that. And so a lot of, you know, banks had closed out back then. And so what the Bahamas did is they used like a staggered approach where they put some of the laws in place and then they waited till there was a mutual evaluation of the laws where the FATF and the IMF and these other supervisory bodies came in, because these are the regulators of the world, to check to see how our laws, you know, would hold up in court. Are we prosecuting anybody? Are we sending persons to jail for money laundering? What's happening in the Bahamas? So prior to 2017, we had mutual evaluations where they came and they said, you know, Bahamas is a tax haven. You are more competitive than the rest of the world. You are tracking the money launderers. You must update your laws. And so the Bahamas, you know, like I said, a staggered approach, because banking used to be 20% of GDP, is now 3%. So we lost 17% because it just simply became too expensive to do business, to hire this professional, to put these systems in place, to hire an entire department and to implement all this training that is required every year to teach the staff on how to prevent and mitigate risk. Okay, and so the Bahamas used a staggered approach. They came in and they blacklisted us. Then we updated, you know, we met the minimum requirements again, because again, we didn't want to wipe out our sector. So we updated some of the policies again, or some of the laws, and we implemented them into the financial services sector. Well, they came back in 2017, and again, this from 2000, we staggered, because we didn't want to wipe out our financial services sector completely. Because over the years, you've seen like Royal Bank had 13 locations. They closed out 5. Scotiabank closed out a lot. It just became too expensive to do business, and a lot of the Swiss banks have closed down. And not only happened in the Bahamas, but all around the world, where they had to implement these policies and procedures. In Switzerland, they had 250 banks. Now they only have 50. So they lost 200 banks because the bank said, we simply do not have the revenue to, put all this policy and procedure and implement this, KYC and due diligence that is required. So they just simply closed out. Okay, so in 2017, the FATF came back and they did a mutual evaluation on the Bahamas. And they said out of the 40 recommendations, we were deficient in 22. Okay, one of those that we were deficient in was supervising or regulating designated non-financial entities, which are the law firms, the real estate, and the accountants that offer corporate services. And I think one of you said, oh, our regulators, the Compliance Commission. So just recently in 2019, after the Bahamas updated their law, we now regulate that industry. So that was one of the deficient recommendations, that the Bahamas did not have a law in place that said they had to be regulated. Okay. And so what it means for them to be regulated is now they have to have that compliance department and that MLRO on staff, or they will not get their license. So think of you being a lawyer or an accountant or a real estate agent in 2018 operating, and then 2019 you're told that you cannot get your license because you are for corporate service. Now we ain't talking about the criminal lawyers or the real estates that just sell property. We're talking about the ones like the big Higgs and Johnsons and what have you that offer corporate service and financial services to their clients. So they were told, hey, you must now have an MLRO on staff or you cannot get your license. So what we saw is an influx of lawyers coming into the class, getting certified, so they didn't have to hire somebody else. However, the regulators say you can only have one position within that, in that institution, depending on the metrics, depending on the size. So you can't be lawyer and MLRO and compliance. You have to have one title. And you would see that throughout the industry, that's a problem. When persons hire compliance, they want you to be compliant, legal, corporate governance, and risk. Okay? And so you end up wearing too much hats and you become overwhelmed. Okay, so that's just one of the issues. But again, in 2018, the law has changed. We updated the 22 FATF recommendations that were deficient, and the central bank, the Securities Commission, created analytics department. And what these analytics departments do is they have like a hands-on approach with the industry, where they call you up on the phone and they working on enforcement, and they're ensuring that all the things that we used to, just push under the rug and get away with, they are now no longer. And so all these laws are being enforced, we are being watched. And so we have to ensure that we know what the policy and procedure says, and we don't use our judgment most of the time, and we operate in accordance with what the policies and procedures say, or you could go to jail. Okay? And so before the laws changed, it used to be that the compliance professional could go to jail. Now everybody in the institution could go to jail. Okay? And so far, I think the Attorney General office have been prosecuting and bringing persons before the court, because internationally we're being watched. Because prior to 2018, there were a very small number of persons being brought before the court, because money laundering was not a predicate crime on our books. And so persons were being charged with, let's say, fraud or stealing by reason of employment. And so if you're watching the news now, you would see the person stealing by reason of employment and money laundering, fraud and money laundering, drug dealing and money laundering. Okay? Because there are 21 crimes that now fall under money laundering. Okay? And so internationally, like I said, we're being watched. So we have to prosecute these people and make sure they go to jail, or else internationally persons will feel that the Bahamas, again, we just put these laws in place, but they're not being enforced. Okay? Any questions? You're still vague?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Celia, no
Okay.
questions.
No questions? Okay, y'all gotta talk back to me. Are you scared y'all gonna fall asleep?
Oh, no, we here.
Y'all up, eh? Y'all ain't had a long day, eh? Y'all good?
We
Yes,
good.
sir.
Okay, good. And I don't want to talk y'all too much. Okay, so I don't know when y'all got your books. That was just an overview, you know, to give you an idea of what compliance does and why we are here and the importance. I hope you got that from what I shared. Did you?
So, question, just trying to understand
Mhm.
what you were saying about the MLRO and the risks and the person in charge. They should be separate hats or separate individuals?
It depends on the amount of clients you have. So you have to have proper metrics in place. So normally, the compliance officer or the head of compliance is the money laundering reporting officer. Normally, if you have 100 clients, then you can be money laundering officer, risk, and the compliance officer. But compliance itself is now so comprehensive, it's split in two areas. There should be an anti-money laundering officer and a regulatory compliance officer. So that anti-money laundering officer deals with the hits every day, opening up accounts, background checks, and what have you. The regulatory compliance officer deals with policy and procedure, um, dealing with the regulators, you know, filling out surveys, questionnaires, and what have you. So I worked in an institution where they had 500 clients and we had that split it because the work was just too much. In fact, I went to one of these Fortune 500 banks, which is like the CIBC, the Scotia, and the Royal Bank, and I did an audit. And when we walked in, we saw that the person was AML, compliance, and risk, and she was just swamped. And so before we even started the audit, we said, you have to find a replacement or somebody to help her because she is overwhelmed. And they had actually hired two persons. That's the amount of work they had. So your company has to have the proper metrics in place to ensure that the person in these functions and every function is not so overwhelmed that they cannot carry out their duties. You will find that organizations do not want to pay them. They don't want to pay three separate persons. Okay, audit has to make them, or the regulator has to make them. And so because these laws just came out in 2018, we didn't believe they were serious, right? You know, we are a very reactive country. We're not proactive. So the laws come in 2018. We ain't had time to change them yet. We don't really believe we have to do all them things. I've been here for 30 years and I do it this way. And so as change is very, very hard when you had somebody operating in a function for years. Now you're telling this person have to do more work for the same pay. So then you have to coach them, you have to follow up, you have to do all sorts of stuff to make them believe they even have to do this. Then they can read the policy. And then an audit have to come in and say, you get fired, or you know what I mean? Or you have to go to school for them to change, right? And that's really how life has happened.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's where we are, Jamal. It only been, what, 2-3 years, and you can't count last year. So people still in the, I don't even believe I have to do this. Because I've been here for 30 years and the bank survived. And so, yeah, that's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, good. So like I said, it's just two or three, maybe 5 pages in the book. So if there are no questions, we're gonna go on to chapters 1 and 2. Okay. Okay, so understanding money laundering. And did anybody have the opportunity to read?
I read the
I
chapter
read a
one.
bit.
Okay, so Jamal and Natonia, give me an overview of what you read in chapter 1. What is your understanding from chapter 1?
It spoke mostly about what money laundering is, a definition, and it spoke about the 3 stages of money laundering. Most times when you work for any financial institution, they'll go through that almost every year, but you got to pass the exam. So that's pretty much what we do just about every year over and over. But it went a little bit more in depth speaking about the different type of crimes and the different offenses and acts, because I don't remember doing any of this in banking or in the insurance industry where they spoke about this act and that act and the importance of what happens if you breach this crime or whatever the case may be.
Okay. So very good. And Jamal, like I said, you was in those years when it wasn't being enforced, and in some instances, it's not being enforced now. We're gonna come, because we're gonna have some problems if we do not hop on board and get everybody trained and make sure, because I always say, because we're being internationally watched, persons are gonna have to be brought before the court. And you can't eliminate risk no matter what you do. You cannot eliminate it. The hackers and scammers are way smarter than we are, right? You can only put controls in place to mitigate risk, right? And so let's just say that our institution is infiltrated. Then we become negligent, right? And the only way we don't become negligent is if we have the controls in place, if we understand the policy, and we can say, listen, the policy says this, and this is what I did. These are the controls, and all the controls were in order. The cameras were working, the systems was up, but there was nothing we could do. These people are smarter than we are. Okay, and so then you don't go to jail. But what happens is, a lot of times people never see the policy. They don't know what the controls are. They don't know how to explain themselves. Okay, and they definitely can't hire through SEAL, right? And so they are going to go to jail. And most of the time you find that poor people go to jail. Okay, the rich people can afford the lawyer. They could pay the $50,000 bail, and they could, hang on for 12 years and pay, so they don't go to jail. But we don't have that money. So a lot of us, you're going to see a lot of poor people who don't know their jobs or who take on positions because, they give me an office and a phone and a car, and I take on this big position whether I qualified or not. They can find themselves being this, the guinea pigs. So this is why we want to educate ourselves to make sure that we are not the ones going to jail. And again, I always say in Brazil, they are guilty until proven innocent. And so the governor of the central bank has gone to jail. The president has been impeached. There are lots of officers and relationship managers who have gone to jail. Okay, because they lock you up first and you have to prove innocence. In the Bahamas, we are guilty. We are innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, but we still don't have bail money. So, like I said, we want to please the international arenas and the persons who lend us money, and we want them to know that we are compliant. And so they are checking on us, and so we have to have these people being brought before the court.
Yeah.
Okay, and as we see for the first time, we see politicians being brought before the court, but they could afford the big lawyers, and they had 4 QCs on their team to, act on their behalf, and none of them, all the 3 done free. So that means just us next, right, to be brought before the court, and we can't afford 1 QC, right?
That's
Queen's
true.
Counsel. So so we have to know our stuff. Okay, so very good. Natanya, you want to add anything to what Jamal said?
Well, I think he basically covered everything about the chapter. But what would have stuck out to me was the predicate crimes and the act. That the predicate crimes are referred to, identified risk. That was something new to me, being in a financial institution. Normally we cover the basics, but that was new information for me.
Okay, great. And so you could, when you go to, I see if you go all the way, you will see that there are 21 crimes. So this is just about 10 of the 21 crimes that fall under money laundering. And what I said earlier is, in the Bahamas in the past, we used to just say, oh, charge him with fraud, give him 2 to 4 years. Charge him with drug dealing or tax evasion or smuggling, right? But now, once you get one of these 21 crimes that fall under money laundering, you get both charges. And so when you listen to the news, you hear these people have 54 charges or something to that extent. They have the fraud charge and money laundering, theft and money laundering, drug dealing and money laundering. Okay, now that it's a predicate crime. Okay, so very good. So again, just an overview of what money laundering is. There are 3 stages of money laundering. And wait, back to the crimes. This is a popular question on the exam, and they ask you, to explain some of these crimes, and they want cases. They don't want you to just give a definition of what fraud is, but explain what it is, and then give, quote a case. And normally it's very easy question to get full points. Just so you would know. Okay, so money laundering, they call it a cycle. There are 3 stages. There's placement, where you structure deposits so you can get it into the financial system, normally through like smuggling or currency exchange, or just false invoicing, or walking up into the bank and making a deposit. Then there's layering. You want multiple. We get that money in to the account. It's on the account, so we want to disguise where that came from. So we send one wire over here, one wire there. We convert the cash. We say, buy me a car, and we try and diminish the audit trail as much as possible, so nobody can really link it back to, say, Miss Bullet deposited this money. And then there's integration. After the money wired all over the place, auto mall now bought, I bought that BMW from the auto mall. And so now they go and pay their bills, or they pay their staff, who then pay a school fee. And so that money then goes back into the country, or it comes out as a legitimate deposit. And this is my favorite story. I tell this every class. When I was a telesupervisor about 20 years ago at Finco Robinson Road, we had the car guy who detailed our cars or kept them clean for us, and we only knew him as Yadi, right? So how many of you have that person in your parking lot that is cleaning your car for you, and you all know him as Yadi or John or some alias? How many of us? And nobody?
That's true. Don't even know the full name.
Yeah, we don't know the full name. Okay, so at the Securities Commission late last year, their car wash guy defrauded them of $850,000. It's a yes, and they didn't even have a name for him, because if you went and Googled his name or world check, just like we do our customers, they would have found out that he was out on bail for robbing Commonwealth Bank in Spanish Wells.
Wow.
But they never knew his name. They only knew him as Yari. And that's all I knew my car wash guy at. So we have to go so far now where we even have to find out what the full and correct name of the car wash or any other vendors, and at least run them through World Check or run them through the system. Because of course, each one of our institutions have a clear desk policy. At the end of the day, we must lock our drawers, put things in the shredder, don't leave anything on the copier, right? Right. Okay, so that's what happened. Somebody left their bag in the car. Yadi was cleaning it, and he was able to steal information or steal a checkbook that was signed, something to that effect, and up to $850,000, he was able to defraud them. Okay, so you have to be aware of the people who are around you. And like I said, if simply we did ask what his name was and not just the alias, running through the system, you said, no, sir. You can't clean cars around here. Okay? So that's the importance. Now, my car wash guy, of course, what happens now is you walk into the bank to open up the account, right? And most persons, I think most institutions now asking for a job letter to open an account, or is it just the credit unions?
Banks. Yeah, banks are.
Okay. So why are they asking for this job letter? Again, because they need to now establish a profile. So my car wash guy, and again, this was in early 2000s, where we was to the point where we didn't believe we had to do all this work, get somebody passport, keep it on file, do it separately. Like, we wasn't doing that. And the car wash guy came in and he said, I'd like to open up an account, Miss Bullard. I said, okay, fine. And he said, I said, how much you just make? He said, I could deposit but $50 a week. And I was like, oh, okay, good. So I can make sure, you clean these cars and I can take out your $50 and deposit it and whatever. And he's like, yeah, Miss Bullet, do that for me. Okay. So now when you go into the bank, they ask you, what are your thresholds? How many deposits do you expect to make each week? And give us now your job letter. Because we now switch from a rules-based approach to a risk-based approach. Okay. And that risk-based approach means how susceptible you are to money laundering and terrorist financing. Okay. So we're going to check. You say you work at this and this is your salary. So how much money are you going to deposit? And suppose I say I could deposit $200 a week, but my salary is only $100 a week. What does that mean?
The red flag.
Okay. And we should then question, where, Miss Bullet, then where you getting this rest of this money from? Because you only just make $100 a week. How can you deposit two? Right? And so that's the importance today of why we are the most asking for job letters or pay stubs, because we have to corroborate the information that you give us. Sometimes we just say, bring a job letter. We don't look at it. And Miss Bullet, we put it on file. Miss Bullet said she could deposit $5,000 a week. And she don't even make that. And we don't ask her no question and we just open that account. Right? And so at account opening, it's very, very important to establish the customer's profile and corroborate it. Ensure that the information that they give makes sense. If you only make a certain amount, you only can, open this account and we have the expectation of what your profile would be each month based on how much money you make. Okay. So I might say I make $100 a week, but I also have rent, or I have a social security check, or I have something. So again, you have to prove all of this and then establish the person's profile. Okay. Back to my story. So back early 2000s, he came in and he said, I go open the $50. I want to open an account, $50 a week. I said, okay, fine. I opened the account. And then one week he came and he said, Miss Bullet, I hit a little lick. Deposit this $10,000 for me, please.
Wow.
That's my friend. He's clean my car every week. My car's be extra clean. No, clean. What do you do?
Ask him where he got the money from, whether it's from gaming or whether he has like a side hustle, and try to find out if what he's telling you is true.
Provide proof.
He say he hit a lick, head burn. What that mean?
You gotta provide proof. He gambling.
He gambling, yeah.
Okay. How you know he gambling? How you know it wasn't a drug deal?
Well,
You could
that's even worse.
It could be, but wouldn't gambling proceeds have like a receipt at least?
Yeah, so gambling have a receipt, and gambling is legal. If you win a number, you could bring the gambling receipt and we accept the money. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Some banks say no, it's outside of our profile. That makes our bank too cash intensive. We don't want to accept the money, but for the most part, you have a receipt. You could deposit that gambling money. But when he just saying he had to like, Mom, Miss Bullet, I do some unscrupulous stuff I don't really want to share with you. Then what?
Then you deny the money.
My good, who will claim my car if I deny this money?
Somebody else.
Any other people is clean car.
Okay,
You're gonna advise him what to say.
You take that money and you wouldn't have a job no more.
Very good.
Anyone who need a job could clean the car.
Okay, very good, very good. I just making sure, because sometimes we get caught in this situation, and everybody have a friend, a cousin to us. We know everybody. Okay, but when you sign up for these jobs in the bank, two things: there's failing to disclose and tipping off. Okay, so I couldn't say no, I can't take this money. You could go to jail. Okay, and a lot of that happened back in the day, and that's why we didn't prosecute anybody, because we missed these opportunities. Okay, because if I took that money, he would have deposited that, then come back out and withdraw it. Now the funds would have been clean, and he would have been able to invest it back in his business, pay his children's school fees, do whatever with it, and the money would have been washed. Okay, so what is important, what we didn't do in the past, is check that person's profiles. Okay, make sure that it's when they bring in their job letter, what they put as the thresholds and how many deposits they can make at the end of every month makes sense. Okay? Your company has to have the proper metrics in place for the account officers, because not only after you are open the account, you now have to review it based on the risk rating. So it's low, you review it every 3 years. If it's medium, every 2 years. If it's high risk, then every year. And at the end of the year, you print out the seeded deposits to make sure that they are doing what they are supposed to and staying within the thresholds of the account opening or within their profile. Okay? You also have to ensure that with company accounts, we have a case. Anybody familiar with Edison Sumner? He was the deputy
Yes.
chair of the
Commerce or something?
yeah, of commerce. Okay. And so his company, let's just say his
Chamber of
company
Commerce.
went down to the Royal Bank and opened an account, and he had an investment company. And this is a true what should I say, a tailored version of a true story. It's in the newspaper. You could Google it, and you could use this as one of your cases in your homework or in your final exam. Many people use it. You know, they said we offer investments. They went down to say Royal Bank, opened an account, and said this is cryptocurrency. Our customers are gonna come and deposit money, and we're gonna invest it in the cryptocurrency. So here it is. Hedburn, Burroughs, and Sawyer and Cash went down to the Royal Bank, deposit $100,000 each. Sumner and his CEO was supposed to invest it into cryptocurrency. Guess what they did? Went to Miami, bought a Rolex watch, bought a BMW. Okay. Nantonia was the account officer. What did Nantonia do wrong? Nantonia, you there? I calling your name right, Natonia? Or
It's Natanya. That's
Natonia?
fine.
Yeah. So Natonia, what did you do wrong? You are the account officer for this account that was open for cryptocurrency. When the wire came through, you check the signature match, you send that down, that $100,000 down to John Bull to buy that Rolex watch.
Whose account the deposit came to?
The account that was supposed to be for cryptocurrency.
What did I do wrong?
Yeah, what did you do wrong? You're the account officer. They send in an instruction and they say, pay this to John Bull for a Rolex watch, please. Buy us some tickets to go to Miami. We will watch the, what's that jazz play in the Marlins? We will watch it live. Send a check down to Auto Mall. We need a BMW.
I guess I didn't do my due diligence in finding
Verify where the
out.
money came from. Can't even say like that.
What is the reason for the account to be open is not in line with what they're doing?
Excellent.
Right.
Great. Right. And so
This is a real example?
this is a real example. Y'all Google it.
Oh my gosh, for cryptocurrency?
I don't know if it was an investment account. I just say, remember I tell you this is a tailored version.
Okay,
You
okay,
can
okay.
Google it and the whole story right online. So he got banned from the Securities Commission for 10 years, and his CEO got banned for life. Because
The account manager.
Okay, I have a question.
No, Edison Sumner. So the account manager should be facing charges if those people are not paid back their money, because he was the gatekeeper. He should not have allowed those transfers to come into the bank and paid them. He should have looked at the profile on the account, saw that the profile said, we opened this account for investment purposes. Our investment is into cryptocurrency. So the only thing that should have gone through that account is investment to an investment firm back and forth. Should have never bought a car, should have never paid for tickets, should have never sent any money to John Bull. And that's how the account officer goes to jail.
Okay.
Okay?
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so where I work, if we notice a transaction similar to that, it is not our job to say, okay, we can't send these funds
It
or
is your
we
job.
can't release
No,
these
it
funds.
is your job. It is your job 100%.
what we are taught to do is send the funds and then fill out something after
No.
sending the funds.
Okay, listen. When you open an account, for the most part, I would say 80% of your transactions should be in line with the profile of the account, right? Sometimes, let's just say I open my account and I said this my savings and my salary. My grandmother died and left me an inheritance. Right. So now I need to prove where I got this extra money from. Yeah, so then you fill out the declaration source of funds. Okay? Or I sold a piece of property, or I win a number, then I need to bring in evidence. However, if 100% of the transactions do not match within the profile, you'll need to update my profile and decide if you're going to keep the account. So if it's outside and this is a business account and this account is for business purposes, they shouldn't be sending wires, pay my child's school fee. No, you can't use this account to pay a school fee. Send some money from this account to my personal, no. When you establish this account, we ask specifically, and this is why relationship management is so important. Your company has to have the proper metrics in place, meaning we have 800 accounts. We have 8 account officers. Each of them are assigned an account that they must monitor. Okay, gone are the days where we can say, oh, this person is always doing. That's why they allowed to get away with money laundering all these years. Whatever you open your account and the profile, however it's established, you must 80% of the time stick with that profile. And if you go outside it, you ask to call your customer and say, declare the source of funds, or what is this? How is this related to cryptocurrency? And if he say, oh, we decided to take the staff to Miami, then you said no. You would have to open an operating account. You can't take the staff to Miami on the customer's money. You could take out your fees, put your fees to your operating account, and then say, this is your company's operating account.
Okay.
Okay.
So I know for incoming funds, I know, we normally question it, but you're saying that even when the funds hit the client's accounts, the institutions are supposed to be monitoring the way that they spend the money.
Yeah, it's supposed to be within the profile of the account. You can't say you open up an account for school fees and doing something else, or investments, particularly with company accounts. If this a company account, you say it for investments, this is other people's money.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now that person not only sued Edison Sumner, could sue Royal Bank for not managing their company. It was outside of the profile of the account. Royal Bank should not have paid for that BMW or that Rolex watch or any of those things. Okay, so Royal Bank will get a fine and that person could get a fine or go to jail.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, okay, so that's why I say, when you take these positions now, gone are the days. Now you realize that on most of the job descriptions, it says abide by the anti-money laundering laws of the Bahamas. Okay, and that's how they put you to jail, and that on almost everybody's job description now.
You're correct. And what they ask for, their compliance certification or something of that sort.
Yeah, for the compliance. Yeah, you must have the ICA if you want to be a compliance, the MLRO if you want to be approved, because that's a regulated function. Again, the company puts that ad in the paper, they get say, I select Miss Bullet, but the regulator has to do a background check. I don't know if you all ever fill out a application for the gaming board, like 66 pages. But you send your resume, you send character reference, financial reference, and they do an extensive background check where they go and talk to your neighbors and what have you to make sure that you are fit and proper for this position. Okay? So it's a bit extensive. And so, again, predicate crime, placement, layering, and integration. And again, one of the questions is, it describe money laundering in the placement stage. So again, you would say this is when the money enters, or they structure it to deposit into the system. There were thresholds years ago. And so when they created thresholds, first it was 5,000, so people deposited 499. Then it was 10,000, so they deposited 999. Now it's 15,000, so they deposit 1499. And so you call that smurfing. And so there should be a system in place that will, tell you post that Miss Bullitt been in this bank 3 times and make these deposits, and it's outside of her profile. So they removed the thresholds, and now they say, you got Miss Bullitt's job letter. It says she make $100 a week. She can't be depositing $200 every week. You have to corroborate the information. Be to the stage where, okay, be asking, you can't open this account without the job letter. But we never read the job letter. We don't match it to what they check on our account opening form, and we just open up the account. And the money coming in and nobody paying attention, because I don't know if the systems are savvy enough to give you a hit. Normally it's like a threshold, give us a hit for everything over 100,000, or for a certain category, you put it in. I don't know how savvy the systems are. So we have to do some of this part of our job manually, and we don't even know that. Okay, until audit comes in. Go ahead, Toya.
Okay, 2 questions. The first one, when banks ask for job letters, do they check to confirm that the job letters are authentic?
No. No. So I could type one up on the computer. I don't know. You could probably
in order to get what I need from the bank.
If you're getting a loan,
check?
If you're getting a loan, probably they call back because they're giving you their money. But to open up an account, I don't know if they're at that point yet. But I don't know. I'll have to check with the people on the front line, but I don't think so. No. Because I worked in wealth management for the past 16 years.
The other question. Okay. And for wire transfer, if I wanted to purchase a vehicle, just saying, i.e. a Tesla, and I need a wire transfer to pay for this, does the bank inquire away, where do I get the funds from to purchase that vehicle?
Well, what banks have started is that they don't send wires for non-customers.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't just walk into a bank and ask for a wire. You'd have to be have an account with a bank. They already established and vet you, and then they will send the wire for you, because that means everything already in place. So if you're not a customer, they don't send a wire. You can't just walk in there with $30,000 cash.
Okay.
And say, send me a wire.
And what they do also, they put it on your account. So it's not whereas you just come over the counter and do it.
I say I don't have any bank account.
Then you can't send the wire.
You gotta open one.
Right. Yeah, gone are the days when all that work around and funny business, you can't do it. You can't do it anymore. The laws have changed and they are being enforced. And like I say, we didn't just put the laws in place now and have the loopholes where you could hire Wayne Monroe and Lucille. Now they are enforcing. They have these analytics departments that check. They ensuring that you have the proper metrics in place. So, there's always a black market, but it's very difficult now, and you could go to jail, so it's not worth it. Headburn, you have a question?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I wanted to know, you were talking about corroboration earlier. I had a question about that as well. So what happens, what type of corroboration would someone who is a self-employed person provide to the bank if they wanted to open an account? Because obviously they couldn't give a job letter, but they have to bring
3 years
from their business.
Yeah, they bring 3 years of financials.
3 years of financials.
Yeah.
So they have to be in business operation for 3 years before they can open.
Well, again, it depends. It depends on the, like I said, the Swiss are different from the Canadians and the US banks. So it just depends. So each would have a policy in place. So normally they would say, listen, we need to determine how you making this money. So you need to bring us some type of proof, and that would be a company account. And so therefore you as a person, you should be an employee of the company. And so the company should be able to give you a job letter unless you opening up the company account. And that's another thing, as compliance professionals, sometimes our employers expect us to know how to read the financial statements. No, there should be an accounting department that you send those financial statements over to and let them confirm if the company is actually profitable. Don't take it upon yourself unless you have a CPA or you are familiar with how to read these financials. Make sure that you understand it and understand it properly. I don't take it on. I send it over to the accounts department and let them confirm that, yes, this company is profitable. But again, they only get so deep into that when you're getting a loan. To open an account, I guess they will allow you to, bring in 1 year financials. Like I said, it depends. You have to go into the bank, and by banks, it may differ depending on where you go.
So job letter would be the best type of corporation.
Right. If you're opening up your own personal account, yeah, it should be a job letter. The company should give you a job letter. If the company is opening an account, then you bring the financial.
They should definitely be doing callbacks on those letters and to verify them.
But see, again, I learned this acronym years ago. It's called CUBA. You get the knowledge, the understanding, then you actually believe. I've been in this position for 30 years. I never had to do this. You won't pay me no more money. And you really expect me to do these 3 extra steps? Ask for the job letter and call the people who will put me on hold forever and find out if this is. No, miss.
This person actually works there.
Bring the money first, increase my salary, and then I can do this. And no salaries get increased because COVID just gone, right? But our Bahamian people, ain't nobody doing that. Right? Think about it. But I mean, this is, like you say, that makes sense. So we are, like I said, we are reactive instead of proactive. So something have to happen, like we have to open up 10 accounts that these people never went before in their life. And these people go on the court and get charged for drug trafficking and money laundering. And then they can say, okay, now we have to corroborate all the job letters. We have to call back. Right? We ain't there yet.
That's the final stage.
Yeah, after a big major loss, then we could do it. And audit still make us do it. We still ain't gonna do it off our own accord. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have a little overview of money laundering. We understand the different offenses. We understand that in the Proceeds of Crime Act, and like I said, when we get to chapter 3, we'll talk more about the framework. These are identified risks and they are offenses under 10 different places, 10 different charges. And so we updated our laws in 2018 because that was one of the requirements from the 40 recommendations that was missing. Okay. Sawyer, I see you say you have a question. Sharenda? No?
I asked already.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. So we all on the same page. We have an overview. Be good with chapter 1. And in our spare time, we can like Google all these little things and learn, get some cases and examples.
Yeah.
Sorry, you said something?
No, it's agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay, so that's chapter 1. We are going to go on to chapter 2. And it talks about understanding terrorist financing. And what I like to do is I like to go to the back of the book and we're going to choose a reader. And so the book says the objective of terrorism is to intimidate a population or compel a government or an international organization to do or abstain from doing any act. Okay, and that's a definition of terrorism. And of course, we are all familiar with 9/11. Do we know that one of the terrorists in 9/11 landed in Freeport? Are we aware of that?
No, I thought they said one was in Atlantis.
No, and when September 11 happened, and this was back in 2001, um, two of the terrorists went into Freeport, and it was planned that they would have hijacked the American Airlines flight out of Freeport and fly it into the White House. However, back in 2001, uh, very competent immigration department was very vigilant and returned those two terrorists on the same flight that they came on and told them that they didn't have the proper visas. So could you have imagined if they were successful, the backlash Bahamas would have gotten if they were able to leave from Freeport?
It'd have been blacklisted for life.
Okay, for life. We would have been finished from 2001. So thank God, 1 year before, they had come out with the 40 recommendations. And obviously that immigration officer was not taking no tip that day. And no batting eyes. You couldn't bat your eyes.
Promoted.
Like you were familiar with them.
Okay, no batting eyes and no tips. That day he was doing his job, thank God. Okay, and that was way back in 2001. And so after September 11th, of course, they came out with 9 other additional recommendations just specifically on terrorism. And so throughout the course, we talk about 40 recommendations. And a popular question on the exam is, how many recommendations did the FATF put in place? And I put 49, and 10 people get about the exam and say, Miss Bullitt, you make a typo. No, I didn't make a typo. It's 49, but we always just quote it as the 40 recommendations. So 40 up front, 9 others specifically for terrorist financing. Okay, and again, I think the first homework question asks you about the terrorists, what they need financing for, or speak about their purposes and their objectives. They need recruitment, training, they need weapons, they need a safe haven. Again, bin Laden was living in a 2-story house for 10 years with his wives and children, and it looked like it had central air, and it looked like, he was very, very comfortable. It was a very nice house that they showed on the TV. So again, safe haven protection for 10 years. And so that's why I said this is the importance of networking, because I always tell my favorite story, if I was to lost my day job and say, call my parents and say, it's a pandemic around the world. I lost my job. I need to come home with my 5 children. Every day my mother would buy me the newspaper. Every day she would say, you read the newspaper today, you find a job, like how much longer you could be in my house, and she loved me, So if bin Laden was able to live all these years and he wasn't out working like us, who else provided for him? His network, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And so this is why I say go out to Toastmasters and Rotary and, network with the movers and shakers, because you need a network as strong as bin Laden's. And you want to use it for good, not to, destroy the world. Okay? So that's the importance of a network. Live comfortably. And you on the run. Nobody telling on you. And you need insulin every day. Okay? For 10 years. All right. So they finance themselves through sympathizers. Again, terrorist financing is ideological. Money laundering is normally for profit, or the motivation is normally for profit. Terrorists, it's their belief. They grew up like how most of us would have grown up in Christianity. They believe that, if they become suicide bombers or they join the Taliban and they help destroy the world, that they will get gold and silver and virgins when they go, commit these crimes. And so they do drug trafficking, kidnapping, gambling, activities in failed states, robbery, counterfeit goods. In parts of the Iraq, they tax you. So if you want to cross like a certain border, like let's say the Paradise Island Bridge to go to work, they are not the government or what have you, but they will kill you if you don't pay them a tax to get past to get to the other side, perhaps just to get to work. So they have various ways that they make their money. And so what I will ask is that we turn to the case 4. Is it case 4? Yeah. And we are going to read most of how they finance their attacks and what terrorists really do. And so you're going to be a bit surprised on the tactics that they use. Okay, so can I have a volunteer to start to read case 4 for me, please? Not all at once, not all at once.
It's in the back of the book.
Yeah, at the back of the book, let's look at case 4.
Okay, I found it.
Okay.
So how do ISIS?
We'll read the first 2 pages. Yeah.
Okay, so how do ISIS terrorists finance their attacks? Meeting in Turkey just 2 days after the horrific terrorist attacks in Paris, leaders of the G20 countries issued a statement condemning recent Islamic State in Iraq and Syria ISIS attacks and reaffirmed their commitment to combat terrorism. More specifically, the group of industrial nations recommitted itself to tackling the financing channels of terrorism, which begs the question, how does ISIS finance its international operations? ISIS is primarily financed through a wide array of criminal activities, large and small, centered in the parts of Syria and Iraq that are under the group's control. ISIS steals livestock, steals foreign fighter passports, taxes, minorities and farmers and truckers, runs a sophisticated extortion racket, kidnaps civilians for ransom payments, loose and what is this?
Iniquities.
Iniquities and much more. It also makes about $40 million a month from illicit oil sales alone. But these sources primarily support the group's expensive state building and war fighting enterprises back home, ranging from paying teachers' salaries and collecting the garbage to bribing tribal leaders and paying fighter salaries. There is, however, entrepreneurial self-financing model that ISIS recruits and supporters around the world have been encouraged to use to fund either their travel to ISIS-controlled land or perhaps their attacks in the West. While it is too soon to state with any certainty how the Paris attacks were funded, the likelihood is that they were funded in the whole or in part through local criminal activities or otherwise legal activities, such as the use of state welfare benefits or taking out a loan. None of these were surprise, since authorities have been tracking the use of such funding schemes by prospective foreign terrorist fighters looking to join ISIS. Indeed, earlier this year, a financial action task force report identified several potential revenue streams for would-be foreign terrorist fighters, including robbery and drug trafficking, various social service payments, and unpaid loans. Some potential plotters or travelers took on short-term jobs to raise the money needed, while others simply drew on their savings or student loan accounts.
Okay, just 1 second, Jamal. Okay, so do we see exactly how they finance this terrorism? Somebody went to the bank and got a loan and said, yeah, no, perhaps I need to pay school fees. Okay. Other persons went to social services and said, I was in Abaco or I was in Freeport when Dorian struck and I'm still unemployed and I need food stamps. Okay. And they sold them so they could fund ISIS. Any of us going down the social service to do that or going to the bank to get a loan?
No.
No.
Okay,
Nope.
it's beyond our wildest dreams, right? We wouldn't even think about things. And so if you want to sit and resonate, how did bin Laden live comfortably for these 10 years? What exactly did he do? And so now we see so many people were involved and these were the measures that they took. Okay, so as we read, I just want you to, that to sit with you. This is how extreme it is, and this is why it is so successful. Okay, okay, continue. And
Consider a few examples. Michael Zahiv Babiou, who murdered a Canadian soldier before attacking Canadian Parliament buildings in October 2014, worked at one of the Alberta oil fields to raise money for his attempted travel to Syria. Petty crime has the potential to bring in sufficient funds for a homegrown attack or transportation to a combat zone as well. There is the case of the 15-year-old boy in Montreal who held up a convenience store with a knife, stealing some $2,200 to pay for his plane ticket out of Canada. The teen's father turned him in to the police after finding the money in his son's bag. Or take the four men arrested in February in Brooklyn, New York, for attempting to join ISIS. Some of their funds were supplied by a supporter who operated mall kiosk selling kitchenware and cell phones. According to the indictment, a round-trip ticket to
Istanbul.
Istanbul cost a mere $598. One of the defendants expected that he would not need to bring more than $400 to travel to Syria because he would not have any concerns in the land of the Islamic State. In Britain, the Metropolitan Police Counterterrorism Command Unit has noticed several cases where jihadists finance themselves through state-funded welfare payments. Most recently, Yahoo Rashid used his student loans and educational grants to cover the travel costs for himself and four friends to go join ISIS in Syria and Morocco and Turkey. Closer to home, Christopher Cornell, who stands accused of plotting to detonate pipe bombs at the US Capitol and shoot people as they run away, simply saved money to conduct his attack, according to the FBI. In several cases, including the shooting in Canada, individuals whose travel to Syria was trotted to deadly attacks at home instead, easily redirecting transportation funds toward homegrown acts of terrorism.
Okay, Jamal, thank you. You can stop right there. So you can read the rest in your own time. Again, I just wanted to give you an overview of how extreme they are and what persons do. And when you have a group of persons, networking together and finding various ways to fund ISIS. Okay. Along with that, in 2019, there are only 365 days in a year, and in America, they had more than 365 domestic terrorism cases. Okay, and of course, we know, they always say, America sneezes and we catch a cold. Okay, are we familiar with any of the domestic terrorism cases here in Nassau? Anybody?
No.
No? Okay. So years ago, right after Christmas, there were 8 persons shot at the Fox Hill Park. Then there were 13 persons shot at a baby shower in Montel Heights. And then most recently in April, we had 6 persons shot in a car on Jerome Avenue. Okay, and so that would be considered domestic terrorism. Anytime it involves, a group of persons, and perhaps people say, well, it was, our problem probably is mostly gang related, but it still falls under terrorism. Okay.
Never known that.
Yeah. Okay. So again, as compliance professionals, we need to be aware, of what's happening and how these terms will be linked. Okay. So any questions on terrorism? We understand their objectives: recruitment, travel. They need a safe haven. They rob, they extort, they kill. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? No questions or concerns? Okay. Is it clear? Should we look back at the let me just pull it up, the instruction sheet, and we should see that our first question is on terrorism. Okay. Discuss the objectives of terrorists and describe 3 ways in which terrorists fund their activities. Okay. And so from what we read and what's in the chapter, you should be able to answer that question. Correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All of this, just you're very smart, eh? You're just clear as mud. We know what Miss Bullet talking about. We good.
So,
This is the
Ms.
time
Bullard,
to
I have a
ask
question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you said with this essay for the homework, the expectation is um, 1,000 to 1,200 words.
Mhm.
Which do you require case studies in this as well?
Of course, you need examples. So it says describe 3 ways in which they fund their activities and they discuss the objectives. Okay, and they fund their activities. We just saw they do social service payments.
Right.
Somebody saved their money, and then if as you continue reading, you would see that they use charities. So now let's think about Bishop Lawrence's role, and he's been feeding the people every Wednesday. And again, one of our deficient laws was that you had to have all the charities regulated, or they would be fined $10,000. Now, we familiar with Bishop. We know that he may not be the smartest, but he has a good heart, and he's been feeding the people every Wednesday. Do you think a terrorist could walk up them and say, listen, Bishop, take this $100,000, feed the people, and send me the rest of the money? Do you think he would think that that's a blessing from the Lord?
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You never know.
Okay. But
Possible.
so again, this is why they had to become regulated. And so there were lots of outcries from the public saying, oh, these the charities, they can't afford to get regulated. Or they had to stop. A lot of banks had put ads in the papers and said, come and regularize your account. You have to identify the people who sit on these boards, and they can no longer just
No.
sit under nonprofits. I think they had to
We
go and
incorporated the
Right.
nonprofit.
There you go. There you go. And they had to be registered with the Registrar General. So it took a
Yeah.
lot of, again, money, because normally incorporation costs like $2,500, right?
Mhm.
And when you're asking for donations to feed the people every week, you don't have $2,500, to pay on some paperwork, but you don't even understand. So again, that's why I want you to further read. You would see how they always use charities to send money all around the world, and again, like I said, we know that Bishop has a good heart, but he may not be educationally savvy enough to know that, hey, I just happy for this blessing. I need to say, well, do some due diligence on this person and find out exactly where this person got this money from. Because just because it's a charity, we can't say, oh, well, it's the Peter Pan effect where he may be a drug dealer, but he doing something for the Lord, so it's okay.
Mhm.
No, but that's what we say, right?
That's very plausible.
Yes,
Very
yes.
plausible.
So that's the importance to ensure that the people who run in these foundations, they may not be knowledgeable, but if you want to run a foundation, hey, it has to be incorporated, it has to be registered, or we can no longer take
Even
it.
even the churches.
Yeah, yeah. All the nonprofits had to be registered and approved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, that's an overview of money laundering and terrorist financing. Normally we have a half an hour break, and persons normally vote to have it at the end. So normally we would end at 8:30. So if you want to, have it halfway through, let me know so I can plan for next week. But if 8:30 is good for everybody, just say we agree that 8:30 we can end. Is that fine for everybody?
I agree.
That's good.
I agree.
Okay,
Yes.
so tell me how you're feeling right now. You're feeling overwhelmed? Oh, Miss Bullet, there's too much information. I sleep halfway through your talk. Like, how are we feeling?
Be informative.
No, it was a good conversation about it. I like the discussion.
Okay, good.
Helps to
Okay.
understand better.
Yes.
Okay, and so we don't feel overwhelmed. We can continue on till 8:30.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Great. So just like I say, let's make this as comfortable as possible and as interesting as possible. And you know, because sometimes it could put you to sleep, but I'm glad that you're all awake and you're all engaged. And the important thing is to walk away comprehending and understanding everything that we discussed. Okay, so Jamal, very good. Thank you for taking the lead and reading for us. You have 2.5 points. You almost there to your full 5%. So excellent, excellent.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't you feel accomplished?
I telling you, 2.5.
There you go, Jamal. Top class. And you're the only one with the 2.5 points. So very good. Very good. So just again to recap everything that I said, so y'all say Miss Bullet just seen talking out of her head on case one. Let's turn over to case one. Since we don't have any questions about terrorism or money laundering, we understand that. Let's just read over case one, and then we will go from there. So who else wants their 2.5% right off the bat? Who else wants this?
Me.
Go ahead, go ahead. Come on down. Come on down. Come on down and get your 2.5%. So this is a very good piece. Now it talks about ACAMS. ACAMS is actually, I guess I'd say the competition for ICA, AML. ICA is London based. ACAMS is US based. Primarily, you know, ICA is much more comprehensive than ACAMS. ACAMS is like the watered down version of AML. Some persons feel that after they take ACAMS, they still have to do ICA because, like I said, one is US and one is London based. Now, we are common law in England, is common law, so ICA is most applicable. But basically, this piece is very good. It refers to ACAMS, but just to give you an overview. So go ahead and Antonio read for us so we can see.
Sorry, you said case one?
Yeah, case one. It says, so you just became the new money laundering officer. 5 ways to help you get started.
Okay, congratulations. You've just become part of what is perhaps the fastest growing and hottest profession in the world. Money laundering compliance officers, also known as MLCOs, are highly sought after professionals and quite scarce. I am certain you are already overwhelmed with both the challenges and the prospects of your new position. The following 5 ideas aim to help you embark on a fruitful and exciting journey where you can learn and at the same time prove to be a valuable asset to your organization. Make time to understand your business. For an MLCO to be effective, he or she must make time to really learn and understand the business he or she is trying to protect. Writing policies, reading suspicious reports, monitoring and training become pointless if you do not understand the environment you are in and the needs of your peers at the front line. Take time to sit with them, engage in their day-to-day activities, and make inquiries in regards to the challenges they face and issues with which they need help. Ask and be prepared to listen to what they have to say. That will help you truly understand what they are doing and how you can become a valuable and necessary partner. 2, there is no shame in training. People sometimes think that when they get their dream job, they can avoid further training, mainly because they seem to have already proven that they are up to the challenge. I have news for you. This is not the case. There should be no shame in receiving training. Training should be continuous, even if you are repeating yourself. Try to find training opportunities in your area, in your town, in your country, and internationally. Choose carefully and try to find those seminars or workshops that will help you in successfully discharging your duties. Training can even provide you with ideas for conducting your own training for your colleagues. There are many training opportunities on anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing, but there's also more specialized ones about the role of the MLCO and writing MLCO reports. It is important to realize and appreciate that the costs of such training are very small when compared to the personal benefits you will receive, and more importantly, for your organization. Seek resources outside of your immediate environment. Do not concentrate on just do not concentrate just on the local legislation and the relevant regulatory guidelines or directives. Those are obviously important, but they are not enough. It is equally, if not more important, to broaden your horizons. The European AML directives apply across all of Europe. So you will find that there is more guidance out there that will help you understand your duties and how to be more effective. There is also useful guidance from US regulators, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, Australia, New Zealand, and more. Just use Google search. A number of professional bodies also offer free subscription newsletters to know your customer and AML, as well as general compliance and ethic matters. The MLCO rule requires a lot of critical thinking and analysis, and accordingly, I would advise you to set up your own library of guidance notes, training materials, presentations, articles, and case studies. Organize these into folders and refer to them when you are uncertain about a situation or when you feel like confirming something before you make a business decision or provide advice. Also, there are some useful and current books on AML and CTF, as well as general compliance management. They can be helpful both as a tool to get you started, but also as a reference from time to time. Memberships to professional organizations. Nowadays, one can find quite a few professional membership organizations for AML compliance professionals. One of the best ones to subscribe to is the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists, ACAMS. Becoming a member of one or more of these organizations opens doors to abundant resources and practical tools to help you perform your duties and excel in what you do. Some of these organizations also offer training opportunities, seminars, and conferences you can attend to become and stay current with what is happening in the AML world. Specifically, ACAMS offer the CAMS certification, the gold standard in the AML certifications, and also organize a number of conferences in Europe and the rest of the world. These are especially useful in anti-financial crime professionals. Network, network, network. Attending relevant conferences in your country or abroad is a great way to meet with peers. Networking is very important in today's fast-paced environment. It is vital to exchange ideas, to share resources and experiences, and to seek help. Many of the professional members, Many of the professional membership organizations described offer local chapters or forums where members can gather and organize relevant and specialized trainings, exchange ideas on the way they do things, and even have fun together. Also, social media is very important. Use LinkedIn or even Facebook and Twitter to follow professional bodies and professional membership organizations that are important news as they happen. You can share what you have learned with your colleagues. Your colleagues will appreciate the valuable and relevant information you provide. Contrary to popular belief, MLCOs can be an exciting, popular, and innovative person and a valuable asset to his or her colleagues and their organization. Remember to open and welcoming and
Be
embrace.
open. Remember to be
Remember to
open.
be open and welcoming and embrace the challenges and prospects of your position and be prepared to make a difference.
Okay, excellent, excellent, Antonio. Well deserved points. Well deserved. Okay, so let me just go over no shame in training. And again, I encourage all of you, even if, at the end of these 5 weeks, you decide, oh no, Miss Bullet, I can't take it any longer. It's too much information. This is not for me. You should write out your development plan and upgrade yourself in any area. If you already have your first degree, or I have my MBA, but I still have to go to seminars. I still have to do continuous um, education. I still have to keep abreast. Recently, I had to open up an account for my employer, and they wanted to interview the MLRO. And in the interview, after I sent them my CV, they said, and this was in 2020 when, there was a pandemic. They said, what seminars have you attended for this year? And I was like, but there's pandemic, but I couldn't risk saying that I didn't attend any. So I had to jump online and do some webinars right away, and not use the excuse as it was a pandemic, because that possibly would have caused us not to been able to open up that account. And, they say, what? We didn't open it because your MLRO is not current with her trainings. So that is very important, because you never know when, your institution will have this requirement. That's the first time anybody had ever asked me, and this was an account out of the United States. So I was very surprised. So, like I said, even if compliance is not for you, find, what you're passionate about, or find what makes money if you're motivated by money, and keep abreast that area and keep up to date, and ensure that you attend at least 2 to 3 seminars, and everything is online now, webinars per year, when you do your performance appraisal, say I attended um, um, anti-money laundering conference, or a webinar, or whatever. You find at BACO, if you join BACO, Bahamas Association of Compliance Officers, they have various seminars and lunch and learns and what have you throughout the year. And as good corporate citizens, your employer, they'll buy 10 tickets and nobody shows up. So you can say, hey, do y'all have any free tickets to the BACO seminar? I'd like to attend. Or let your compliance officer know that you're doing anti-money laundering training and you'd like to attend some seminars with them. There are some free seminars. Sign up to the Attorney General's office. They are very good now with industry updates. Once laws are changed and they are sent out to the public, they have an industry update to explain the changes in the law. And so there are various ways, free seminars. It doesn't have to be a paid one. So, keep your trainings up to date. Depending on what department you're in. And most recently, a past colleague called me and said, my job requires me to be registered with the Securities Commission, but I don't have my Series 7. So I said, okay, well, I said, the classes are about to start, jump in the class. And she said, well, I really don't have time to take a class. And I said, but how are you going to keep this job? So she said, you think they will not notice? I said, why would you wait? Like, why would you wait and risk, losing your job? Because I had this incident before where we had an entire department when the laws changed in 2018, and only one person had their Series 7, and that was a requirement to trade. And the Securities Commission, they worked with us. They said, listen, these people have 1 year to take this Series 7 and get it up, get themselves upgraded so they can be registered, or the company will be fined, or you have to hire new people. So don't wait until you have like an ultimatum. And then persons, they weren't successful the first time they passed, and then Securities Commission came back and said, well, we give them 90 days to reset it. And that's reasonable. And sometimes you don't pass on the first go. You don't just give up if that's what you're passionate about, or if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. I mean, everybody has a purpose. So please don't wait until, like I said, the regulators are working on enforcement, audit is working on enforcement. And a lot of times, if there are deficiencies in departments, the first thing we ask for is, let us see the CVs. Let us see if you have sufficient experience and sufficient education within that department. And if you don't, and you're having deficiencies, we say, okay, no, you have to hire somebody else, or these people have to go to school. So don't wait until that happens. Okay. memberships. I told you all to subscribe. Um, normally your institution pays for two memberships. And if they don't pay, sign up as a student until you get, to an executive level where they do pay. But you can ask to see if that's a benefit. Normally, they pay for classes as well. People be like, I don't want them to know my business, and I don't know that's a benefit. Take advantage. If you could get it for free, take advantage of getting it for free. Keeping your library, very important if you're going to go all the way to ICA. In fact, I just had a conversation with somebody who was in my intermediate class, and she was stuck, and she said, Miss Bullard, I don't know how to answer this question. And I said, listen, go get your intermediate and intro books and look at these chapters. And she called me back and she said, oh my God, I cannot believe, I was doing so much research. I was all over the place. And this information is right here to help me answer this question. So keep your library, keep all your research, and organize it so you could find things. I have things labeled in my emails. I could just put the name in the search, and all my papers and everything I refer back to, because compliance is decision based. And a lot of people do not know how to make decisions. I mean, all these things that Ms. Bullet saying is very remedial. People don't know how to read, very remedial. They really don't. Or they just don't like to read. They say, if you want to hide something, put it in the book. Nobody will ever know. Okay, so keep your library, keep it organized, and it will assist you all the way through. Okay, and then of course I'm giving you your extra 5% to you go out there and you network and you meet some people and you get then your name out there whilst you're being qualified. And so when the position comes available, you are ready. Not, oh, let me go try take a class, or let me go and do this. No, you know the right people, you're educated. When we see these CVs, oh, we know Jamal, he got the first 2.5% in this class. So I remember him, right? So make sure you introduce yourself and you'll get that Bin Laden support. Okay, no, for true. You're not, like I say, if I move to my parents' house, I don't know if your parents live different from mine, say. You're millennials, your parents could let you live and no complaints, say.
I know that.
So you could bring your husband. So you could bring your husband and your children.
What, for the weekend? Hey?
Tell your mommy you lose your job and you bring in your husband and your children. You can't never dress up and leave a house without saying you going to work. You find a job. You could go out. So yeah, let's be proactive. It's very hard because our culture is reactive, but let's try our best. Okay, and like I said, this is very achievable. The key to this is being organized. you know um it says be kind and diplomatic. I mean, yeah, everywhere you go there's a devil waiting on you. If you want to be the MLRO, you have to deal with the whole entire organization. And really have to get to a point where you raise above the personalities and forget about the attitudes and help the organization to stay compliant, even to the ones that don't listen. So you need a high level of diplomacy, a high level of patience, a high level of the willingness to engage everybody and have an open door policy. In most institutions, they say compliance is the police, but you want people to feel that you are approachable, you know, and so feel welcome that I can go and ask Miss Bullet some questions and she ain't gonna say I dumb, or she can help me, or but research, so practice research, because once you get in these positions, you're gonna say, okay, come to me with a little bit more meat. I just have to say, Miss Bullet never work in credit. I can't tell you why this happening in credit. So you do your research, you come back to me, and then I can help you. Okay. So subscribe. It's 15 minutes left. I want you to take that time to go to your regulator's website, and let me just see if I could share this screen. Let's see. Share the screen, and we want to go to the Central Bank of the Bahamas, because most of us are from banks. and they have a vast amount of information all on their website. Yeah, familiarize yourself with it. um a part of my job as compliance, and you see right here, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
it says latest publications. And so one time Central Bank came in
Mm-hmm.
to audit us. They said, show us where you would have disseminated the publications throughout the organization. So I said, show you confirmation. So they say, yeah, we sent out a quarterly economic review in December. Show us where that you sent that out. Or we send annual reports and statements of accounts for 2020. So there are various publications that they send out. And so I had to prove to them as compliance I was disseminating their publications throughout the organization, and I could have gotten an audit note. And central banks supervisory response and guidance on um, COVID-19. And so they wanted to see where were you sharing this information. So I had to show emails. I said some were water cooler conversations, some I sent out, and then some I emailed. So they said, show us the emails, and they checked to make sure that I was sharing, this information. And so if your compliance and your regulators, the Securities Commission, I'm certain they're going to do a check. The gaming board is going to do a check. And so right here, every time something comes up, there is a subscribe button. Let's see, all the way to the bottom should be somewhere. Mailing, let me see, governor. Let's see, alerts. Okay, right here. So it says, I clicked on alerts and it says mailing list. So to receive an email update, subscribe below. And so you just put your email address in there and hit that, and all the emails and their latest news and everything comes directly to your email. So you don't necessarily have to visit 5 sites each day. So that's how you
Mm-hmm.
subscribe. Okay? Is
Okay,
that clear?
Yes.
that's clear.
Claire.
Yes.
Okay, and so these are the
Yes.
latest news and what have you, and you just peruse through it and share whatever applicable throughout your organization. And so I gave you a list of the most common um ones that you should subscribe to. In I gave a list right here. Okay, the Bahamas Financial Services Board, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, or whichever your regulator is, BACO, the Financial Action Task for the Attorney General's office. Like I said, they give the industry updates and what have you, and there are loads of information on their websites. We saw how extensive central bank own is, and so publications, the history, the legal framework, everything you need to know right there. So that's why I normally just use central bank, but subscribe and keep up to date with the latest information. If you go to the Securities Commission website, they have a fintech hub. And in my ICA class, one of the questions in the book asks, how familiar are compliance professionals with reg tech and fintech? And fintech is the new way to go in banking. There's no more like brick and mortar. They're moving away from the brick and mortar banks, and everything is online. How familiar are compliance professionals with this online? And so you go right to put it in search and put in fintech, and these are the various there's a digital currency. The It's regulated by the DARE bill. And so we should be familiar with our digital currency. It's called the Sand Dollar. And it's not a cryptocurrency, it's a digital currency. And so this is the FinTech link. And you should be able to subscribe to the FinTech link to just keep abreast of what are the new technological advancements in the Bahamas. And FinTech legislation is called RegTech. So when I do the button, nothing comes out. But like I said, the question asks, how familiar are we as compliance professional with these new technologies? When our businesses say we want to offer a new product and service, like when we started debit cards, is this a time when we go and scramble and find out what they mean or what are the risks, or we should already be educated? Okay, so ensure that you spend some time and find out what these different bills are and how they are, based on the products and services that your institution offers. But like I say, subscribe, and so you get the latest updates and you keep a bit abreast of what's going on um, in the economy. And you don't have to buy the newspaper. So most institutions buy the newspaper. It's online. If you go on the Facebook, somebody puts it out, and you can read all the articles online. On the Tribune and the Guardians are online. Just subscribe to the business section, and you'll get all the updates. Okay, so because we want to keep abreast, and we, like I said, when we have these conversations, we want to speak knowledgeably by the water cooler, and that's how the CEO is invite you to his office. Oh, come, let's have lunch, or what have you, and we would have networked and been educated and could speak knowledgeably to these issues when we go to these civic organizations. Because again, like I said, we don't want to talk about what we wearing or but business and the economy, and what we could do to, we are the future leaders, and so what we could do to help take our country to the next level. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so excellent. So any questions or concerns, or how do we feel after the first class? Are we ready to read and make decisions? Burrows,
Informative.
sorry, somebody was speaking.
I said informative.
Okay, great. What about you, Burrows? I haven't heard from you tonight. Burrows, are you there? Okay, Burrows must be coming back to listen to the recording.
I know I'm here. I just stepped over for a second.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So all of this was clear as mud?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. It was good.
Okay, so give me some feedback then, because you'll have to talk back to me and engage me and make sure Miss Bullet don't fall asleep. Next week you'll come ready. Y'all would read chapters 3 and 4 and come ready to say I did this research and I read this in the newspaper, and come ready for a provocative discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Okay, excellent. I can wait till next week. Okay, so next week, the Bahamian legal system and AML CTF programs. Okay, so after hearing all of this is a lot. So take a break and unwind and be ready. Tomorrow is Friday, and enjoy your weekend. And then, after you enjoy yourself and relax, then pick it back up. And if some of you can attempt question 1. Okay, if you decide to, it's no pressure to do it. But if you decide to, but the key is, so you can retain all of this, is that you unwind and you feel good, you organize yourself, relax, and then get back to work. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Okay,
Okay,
excellent.
thank you.
So y'all have a fabulous week, and we'll do this again next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
too.
good evening.
Okay, good evening.
Okay.
You
Good
too.
night.
Okay,
Good evening.
good evening.